Chapter 6 Aftermath. For what felt like a very long while, Ben and Swift were utterly dumbstruck, trying to fathom what in the vastness of this world they had just bore witness to. Incidentally, they knew exactly what had just happened, but their minds refused to believe it. There was not a single doubt, although it had not looked quite like any interpretation they had seen or yet imagined. It was a dragon. They were now in a realm where dragons were not only real, but fierce and terrible creatures to behold. It is said, by those who dare to sing hushed tales of it, the dragons revel in very little, but they find pleasure in slumber, and in the torture and suffering of other living things who wish for nothing more than to live under the peace and the warmth of Dach's light, known to us as the sun. And that if they do not get enough of one, they seek fulfillment in the other. Those unlucky enough to witness their full wrath know them only as ancient demons of torment and malice, the Ungwe. Our heroes would later come to realize just how close this brush with death had been, once their minds, of course, caught up with their hearts. This is why they couldn't find the motive to speak. That was until a guard burst into the room. His footsteps could be heard fast approaching for some time as he ascended, but neither paid any heed until he was before them.
"Heroes!"
He screamed.
"You two are heroes! You have slain the monster! You have saved Meridim!"
They didn't respond, save for an that escaped Swift. He was not paying attention. As a result, one of the final joints burnt his finger, and he dropped it instinctively. "Yo, dude, chill out, my guy," Ben said. "Hit this shit, my dude. You're like an 11 right now. I'm gonna need you to bring it down to like a 7 or a 6, fucking minimum." Surprisingly, without a moment of hesitation, the guard grabbed the joint from Ben and placed it in a corner of his mouth, then spoke again from the other.
"Come on! The people are waiting for their heroes! Heroes!"
He wailed, taking them both by the arm and hurriedly escorting them back down the tower. Any time Ben attempted to take the joint back, the man spouted another,
"Heroes!"
Swift glanced over to Ben with an annoyed expression.
Doesn't even look like he's smoking the fucking thing.
Now turning the final corner, exiting the tower, there was indeed quite an audience gathered for them.
"People of Marar, behold! Behold, behold! 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 Be we! Balabalabu, look at these two!"
He sang. Okay, so it wasn't just sitting in his mouth, thought Ben. But soon he could tend to his own thoughts no longer, as they were drowned out by a symphony of showering praise from characters who both wanted to know their names and in turn introduce themselves. Ben and Swift were about the only words they were able to get in for some time. "You've done it. You've slain the demon. No doubt before the news even had the chance to reach the General Royale, Sir Darius," said a shapely man.
"The heroes of Marar.
Saviors of a dying age. Name Scrimbimblow. Anything you need from me and mine, you need only ask. Sirs." "Nice to meet the demons, Bane. Let me just introduce myself as Vertberg Batty Julenhart McJr. Choose Bus Von Grief Von Heim the 64th at your service."
Yeah, sure, I'm totally gonna remember that.
Said Swift in deep sarcasm.
Protect us from the stars."
This one came from someone Ben recognized from earlier, the fountain.
Iron Maidens is what we ought to call them.
Quite the list of titles they had already accumulated, and any attempt from the pair to explain that it had been a fluke and that they had not slain the dragon simply fell on deaf ears.
And humble heroes they are. Ben and Swift, eh? Ben and Swift. Yes. Ben and Swift, eh? Ben and Swift. Yes. Ben. Yep. And Swift, right? Quite right. Ben and Swift, very well, Ben and Swift. Oh, yes. Oh, Ben, yes, Ben. And Swift, indeed, Swift and Ben.
He trailed off.
Hey there, big fellas, that was mighty of you. Good on you there, fellows, can't thank you enough. That's my name is Galipalapalo, there, fellas.
This was spoken by his singular Nomiri, although he stood together with 7 others, who all expressed their gratitude and took turns in introducing themselves through a series of nods and bows. They were really fucking endearing and genuinely polite. A bald, pinkish man with a rounded beard pushed through the crowd and dropped to one knee before them. He wept as he spoke.
"Oh, Gruntilda has shown her mercy on me this day. Thank you, heroes. Thank you. If you had not failed that beast when you did, he was about to set my house ablaze. My house. The house that at the time of the attack held not only my first and second born, but my pregnant wife, and pets most dear as well. Oh, I cannot thank you enough. It was just about to do something terrible, when it was suddenly drawn to your magical smoke."
Oh, hose-wash.
Piped up a voice in the back of the crowd, and all heads snapped around angrily towards it.
Those boys are useless. Had they not taken so long, my house would not have been destroyed.
Another voice was quick to defend them.
Had they not taken so long, the fountain would have still been filled with people, all of whom would now be dead. So stay your tongue. Besides, they're not useless. I hear they come from a land in which they are kings of the highest order.
This more or less shut the protester up, but he was heard mumbling the word.
Preposterous.
Ad nauseum for the next 10 or 15 minutes.
Yes, right. I didn't know. I'll be killed. There's something born.
Where the fuck are they getting these ideas from? They were getting more outrageous with each passing second.
I heard they travel between worlds slaying demonkind. I heard they are 9 feet tall, made of pure iron.
Dude, we're right here. Like, right here. What the fuck are you on about right now?
Swift called out in vain and confusion.
I once heard tale of them being originally of the kinship of the Ungwe themselves, sent here to right the wrongs of their past and their kindred.
In taverns they sing of how they struck down the beast with a flame that burns 1/1000th the size and intensity of its own.
At least, the boys supposed, this one was partially true.
Legends say they are the original gods of Marar, sent to overlook and protect us all. Fast friends of the people. Patience and empathy is their virtue.
It was getting so ridiculous now that they began to tune it out. Or at least, they would have, had it not been for the occasional fan who was insistent on taking them by the hand when offering his or her praise. This, of course, snapped them out of whatever daydream they had latched to, and presently placed them back in the moment. I will not bother you with any more details of all the nonsense they endured, but rest assured, it went on for a great deal more than this. Just when they were beginning to get overly annoyed and quite ready to speak their mind on the matter, it fast broke with the arrival of a group of very official-looking guards captains the ore-plated mail. They brought tidings most welcome, and of course, their own unique brand of thanks, delivered to them along with a firm handshake.
That's more like it.
Straight to the point is typically how Swift liked to approach this type of thing, or really any matter at all, come to think of it. Ere he realized, as did Ben, that this town rejoiced in adventurous tales, and an Ungwe falling dead in their city was not something they were willing to pass off as luck, for that would not make for a song that any would care to hear. Therefore, whether they believed it or not, a hero, or in this case heroes, would not go unassigned. Therefore, any attempt to argue or amend the fabrication would be utterly futile.
My name is Baron Boltoid, and to my left and right, Captain Alsmond Samuel and Sir Drokus respectively. King Koros has heard of your heroic deeds and wishes to embrace you the only way a king knows how. With tidings, of gifts, and of news that will likely serve you fairly. Heed well, for these tidings will be presented as thus. First, we give to you the gift of silver, known to us as cream shillings, to help you along in your early days here in the kingdom. We cannot have our honored guests go hungry or thirsty, which leads us to the second gift.
Boltoid gestured over to Alsmond, who promptly removed 2 red satin scarves from a brand new satchel. He handed them to Boltoid, who, in turn, handed one each to Swift and Ben. They were swirled with color, as if they had run low on ink while dyeing it. But this design was very deliberate, as was the immaculate stitching and emblem embroidery in its corner. Its depiction was of 2 storms fated to clash. This was meant to symbolize war, but they were divided by the castle of Mirar. A heavenly light shone from it and assured the 2 sides would never come to meet, a symbol of peace. The official crest of the Kingdom of Mirar.
Those, gentlemen, are what we call the King's Mark, to be worn exclusively by honored guests such as yourselves. This way, as you walk the streets with them presented, you will at least receive a portion of the respect you have earned here today. Soon, though, all will come to know of your triumph. None shall disrespect you if they have any mind in them at all, and at that point the mark will no longer be necessary, whereupon you will be asked to return them. Let it be said that they are not needed at all, but seek to further extend our respect and hospitality. As the king is the busiest man in all the realm, he hasn't the time to meet with you, believe it or not. Even a matter as paramount as this cannot be prioritized above any of his other duties, as he does not contend with things that are not of great importance. That being said, he needed you to understand that it was not from lack of gratefulness. This at last brings us to his final hospitality, a soft place to rest your weary selves.
Ben and Swift beamed with joy upon hearing this. Ben thought of little else than his bed whenever he strolled through his mind for comforts. He missed being lazy, something he had not the privilege for here.
There's a guest room, specially built for 2, in barracks number 29. You will meet and sup with the soldiers of said barracks, but your room is separate and alone, so with any luck it will suffice for a quiet and private rest. A few good men should be finishing preparations of the room as we speak. Come now.
He turned face and started away with lengthy strides.
Follow me.
Ben and Swift quickened as to not lag behind. A few of their newly accumulated fans followed for a time until, noticing that they had gotten quite far enough from their homes or had lost interest and gotten bored. Either way, they all eventually broke off from the group, usually with a kindly word or 2 accompanying the departure. There was one, however, who was particularly peculiar. A young boy, no older than 13, he stood always shoulder to shoulder with them. His voice was sing-songy, as were his words.
I'm going to follow you forever and kiss the ground you walk on. Let's go. Would you like me to carry your hatchet?
No, said Ben.
A foot rub, perhaps?
Boltoid was evidently quick to anger, and had not the patience for these antics. He shooed away the obsessing fan with threats of violence, which he did not mean to speak so harshly, nor certainly did he intend to see them through. Indeed, he snapped quite hastily in his annoyance. This worked, and the boy could be heard mumbling things as he sulked away. Surprisingly, these captains were quite eager to chat. They had, all three of them, grown up in this city, and had many a fond tale to tell of it, weaving in details about how it has or has not changed as they did so.
And I was a lad. This building was a nursery, but now it's a school. My youngest Henry is in his 4th year here.
Or,
10 years back, this part of the city was nothing but dirt trail.
and other things of that sort, mainly concerned with the architectural history. Ben did heed them, as he had a genuine interest in the history and storytelling, but there was something distracting him. Something that had cast its shadow over them since the moment they had entered the city's gates. The castle. It held comfort through virtue, but it stopped short of being comfortable to look upon. To gaze on its darkened figure induced an anxiety in him, parallel to the panic he felt while eating that kindly old baker's bun. Yet, this time it did not have domain over him, and he was able to tear himself from the spell rather quickly. The optimistic voices of Swift chatting and laughing with their new companions delivered him from the clutches of apprehension ere it became untamable.
And here we are, barracks number 29, your new home. For now, at least,
said Boltoid, and nodded to both Drokus and Samuel, no doubt dismissing them of duty for the night. They parted with a handshake and a bow, before heading off in a separate direction.
Come, I'll introduce you to some of the men here, lest you are too burdened by fatigue, in which case I will waste no time in showing you right to your room. The men will understand, but they will want to meet you, and will likely assist upon it before too long.
Swift and Ben indeed wanted to be shown straight to their bedding, but at the mention of this, they decided their tanks had enough gas left for this one more thing. Although they encouraged Boltoid to try and keep these interactions brief if he was able to do so. They entered the barracks through a rounded red door with a heavy brass knocker. The first room was a common sitting area, an oval-shaped room with a cozy fire. It was adorned front to back with frilled red, green, and gold tapestries and banners, which added some much-needed color in contrast to the wearisome walls. There was stationed a guard in this room at all times, and since it was an easy post to man, they were usually found nestled up in an extremely cozy burgundy reading chair.
How's the night so far, Barkwell?
Quite as usual, he reported. Footsteps shuffled about overhead. Now winding up thick gray stairs, they moved on to the second floor, which housed the beds. Ben and Swift must have met at least a dozen soldiers that night. All were young, fair of face, and had hospitable hearts. The men who work for the king are good men, certainly. I will not burden you with all their names, as they do not play a part in this tale. But Ben and Swift enjoyed their company, and smiled upon any further meetings with any of them.
And last but not least, announced Boltoid, the room which you will be staying.
he pulled back a door that swung silently as a specter, introducing them to something they had yet to feel in this realm: relief. It was a simple room, 2 beds that appeared exceptionally soft and spacious, 2 chairs, 2 windows, 2 paintings, one of a mountain and the other was of a bountiful fruit harvest, 4 walls, a curvaceous wooden dresser adorned with an oval mirror. There was a tiny heater placed off to the side, in the form of a wood stove as well, a basin that was placed in the corner, closest to them now. There were 2 large chests containing some dry common clothes for them to climb into, in addition an elegant dark suit meant for their upcoming feast with the king on the morrow. In the very back, a room for having a hot bath.
Will this suffice? Asked Boltoid. Will this suffice? Ben replied. Are you fucking kidding me? This shit's fucking dope. Let's go, you hooked it the fuck up, homie.
Boltoid stared blankly at Ben and did not respond, as if Ben's words fractured his brain. Eager to have a quiet bed to himself, Swift chimed in at once.
Yes, this is most acceptable. Thank you, Boltoid. Have a great night. Let us meet again sometime soon.
You as well, dear friends.
And with this, he bowed low and turned for home.
See, dude?
Spoke Swift after a moment passing.
That's how you gotta talk to these people, or they're not gonna understand what the fuck we're saying.
Too true, my dude. Good point. I'll try to watch myself on that, but, I mean, it's gonna take a minute for me to get used to that. And also, fuck them. They laughed, just as they did back home at the absurdity of humans.
I'm gonna wash my gooch first.
Swift stated.
Frig off, Frigo. What do you mean you're going first? There's 2 baths in there. And you've seen my dick. A grand total of 52 times? We both know it's fucking nothing to write home about.
That doesn't seem... 52? Like, what? Dude, where the fuck did you even pull that number from? And why would you even keep track?
The baths were enormous, big barrel-like basins, and the water was very hot. They were provided with soft, sudsy soap, and other such hygienic luxuries they had not expected. After a savory soak, a few Big L songs sung in unison, and one very juvenile play fight that began with Ben lobbing a scrubby brush into Swift's bath, Swift retaliating by hurling a tightly rolled towel. This sparked a skirmish, each grabbing whatever lay within arm's reach and besieging the other's bath with reckless volleys. They realized it had gone too far and called for a truce when an iron candle holder went flying through the air.
Whoa, dude, stop, dude, stop.
Ben dries himself off and, with his hand, clears the bathroom mirror. He gazed at the reflection, and it was really, truly, him that was staring back, in this room, in this city, in this world. After freshening up, they had a surprising amount of energy and took a while to settle. But once they did, the night was ever so calm. Lying awake in their beds, a cool pillow and a solemn breeze were tremendously therapeutic, like soaking in a natural hot spring in the dead of winter, with a bottle of your favorite beer in hand. Swift was flirting with the idea of sleep as his eyelids flickered, and his muscles deeply relaxed.
You'll tell me about that time that you flew to London with that hooker.
He said, with a yawn and a laugh before adding,
Fuck, these clothes are comfy.
Yeah, for I feel like the 30th time? Dude, she wasn't a hooker. She was my girlfriend. We were dating at the time, right?
Ben told 3 stories at a time, as was his fashion, for a detail in one story would remind him of an entirely different tale that, at pivotal moments, he simply had to interject with, lest they disappear again from his memory. Swift was quite used to this, and so it didn't bother him. Before long, Ben's words blended with the forming of a fantastical dream. Swift succumbs to slumber.